Oh, hey there. It's the middle of the night, 4:41. Just woke up from a dream and I figured I'd talk about it. This isn't one of those dreams that, dissipates. Most dreams are where, you wake up and then you start to forget very quickly. It's a chemical thing in your brain. Most people get that. That's actually quite normal. But this one I'm going to remember. But I figured I'd talk about it anyway. Essentially what happened was I was with this chick, and there was an underlying impression that she was my girlfriend, and that was all right. And she was nice enough during I wouldn't say it was a date or anything, and we didn't do anything in particular. It was an Asian woman, not one I'd seen before or anything like that. But, sometimes in a dream, something can be an underlying impression. Anyway, she had like sort of bogus blonde hair, but not like full on bogus blonde hair, like, kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It looked, it looked normal, but it was like strands of blonde hair in it, so, whatever. Um, that's not the main priority anyway. Um, anyway, so what had happened was we head back to, I guess supposedly it was my house, I suppose, but it wasn't. Um, anyway, there was some concerns because, for whatever reason, there were rattlesnakes around, and so I pick up a club and I got a flashlight because it's the middle of the night. I don't know why, and she heads out the back door, right? And I go, hey, you can't leave me here with these rattlesnakes. So drop the club, drop the flashlight, and I just go forward, right? And I run to the truck, and when I get to the truck, uh, it was, somewhat of an old beat up pickup truck, but there were six chicks in the front, you know, compartment, including her driving, and there were a whole pile of dudes laying flat on the bed of the back of the truck. And I just went, oh, I know what's going on here. I'm getting ditched, aren't I? And some of the guys were going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so what did I say? I say, uh, I could do that too, because obviously, going off to party with them, and it was, going to be predominantly a sausage fest. The thing is, basically, any chick that's in her 20s or whatever has gone to parties where it's predominantly, men. And, that's the thing you're going to have to get over with. And, it doesn't mean they're being passed around by like a doobie or anything, but, it is something to consider. And it's not something I'm particularly bothered by. I mean, that is just a fact of life. That at this, stage of the game, I'm 32 years of age. I mean, as good and well as I deserve for being an involuntary celibate for so long, as good and well as I deserve to have two hot, relatively untouched 21-year-old chicks with big tits, odds of that happening are pretty remote. Um, the stern takes no bullshit, gives a lot of attitude. Bitches that are out there that like me, I should say. They will do everything in their power to stop that, which is really, really hypocritical and bitchy of them. But I'll take life as it shows up. But we're gonna have to see about that. Anyway, so I was a little bit perturbed, as one might expect, and I turn around and I I begin walking back, and a guy who looked a bit like Sasquatch. I don't mean big. I just mean he had a really ugly face. He's like, "Oh, we're just making blueberry tarts for the charity." And uh yeah, this is where it gets funny. I just smacked those fucking blueberry tarts in the tray he had out of his fucking hand, and I said, "I drink alone." and I told him to get the fuck out of here. I thought that was pretty funny. And I mean, yeah, realistically, any of the women that are going to put a bite on me have been to parties where there are going to be more men there. And as I said, it doesn't mean they were whoring around or anything necessarily, but it does mean that, they were in those kind of social situations. Obviously, it's just one of those things that you're just going to have to get over. And but the things like that say other things as well. I didn't necessarily think of it in the dream, but I'm thinking about it afterwards anyway. Um, is that, women will do that in the future anyway, as kind of a way of going, well, these have been my friends, and we've had social gatherings and things like that for many times before. And the thing is, I'm going into this going, I don't like anybody, okay? And I'm not just gonna put up with shit. And I'm not saying that any chicks that I run into weren't allowed to have a life similar to me in that regard. As far as parties, hanging out with people, and maybe a little bit of promiscuity and things like that. I'm not saying that they couldn't have had that life before they met me, but if it's gonna turn into like somewhat of a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, I am not putting up with her baggage. That's just not happening. I don't care if they're the nicest guys or whatever. It will not take much for it to turn into a fucking argument. I know that for sure. Because it's not just me. Um, Obviously, any chick, and then the new guy shows up on the scene, which would be me. It doesn't matter about my background, my history. None of that matters. To these people, they're going to want to set a precedent. They're going to want to exercise that, they're the alphas, and that I'm the newcomer and things like that. And I'm not going to put up with that shit. It's just not happening. So it's just going to be bad news right off the bat when I go to meet these people. No pun intended, of course. Um, but I got to tell you, like, there are some things that are underlying humiliating, and that would be one of those experiences. It may not seem overtly like that, although it could quite easily. If they started slurring words like, yeah, half of us have gone with this woman and things like that, then it might start to get a bit, like, okay, now you're starting to piss me off kind of thing. Um, or, they could be bullshit themselves. That's a possibility. Uh, and actually, at this point, it may even start to sound like a probability, not because of anything me, because maybe the chick had to work extra hard to, you know, associate herself with someone as cool as me. Perhaps that's the reason. Perhaps because she was Asian, and in a lot of my videos, I do not speak kindly of China, specifically China, but other Asian countries as well. I just don't. Um, that's the honest truth. It's just like, bam, like I don't like any of those sort of people. And I really do not have to put up with that shit. And I don't even want to go to parties where there is like, the underlying factor that it's not that I have to be in charge, but I don't want to feel like I'm not in charge when I'm there. I don't want to feel like it's, the mom rules kind of mentality. And I prefer to keep my circles small. That way I'm not putting up with random personalities and their lies and the deception and sneaky things that they may get up to and probably will. I mean, that's not me being paranoid. That's me going, look, I've been in a bubble. I've been in a voluntary celibate for so many years. There are social mechanical reasons that don't have anything to do with me, but they're using me as a reason for having these social mechanical reasons. So I'm not at fault, but I'm saying that's a bunch of bullshit. And yeah, anyway, so yeah, I just at that point, I was just like in my mindset in the dream, I was done with her. I was like, fine, you go do that. Because I don't know, they probably think, oh well, all he needs is a blowjob, quick kiss and a cuddle, and he's gonna fall heads over heels for a chick, and it's just like, no, you don't really know who I am, do you? It takes a bit more than that. Um, Usually, I have to actually like the chick, and I don't actually like all chicks. And that's, some people will go, oh, now you're an incel, blah, blah, blah. No, shut the fuck up. I already made the distinction that they're not the same thing, involuntary celibate and incel. They're not the same thing at all. And I don't have to like every chick. I don't have to. Plenty of reasons why not to like certain women. And, that doesn't mean that you hate all women because you don't like some women. Because guess what? There are a lot of men that I don't like either. And, there's probably as a ratio, there's probably more men that I don't like than women. So, as typical standard incel rhetoric, I don't fit in that classification. That's not me. Uh, I mean, none of that stuff was in my dream, but I'm just saying that, there is a line in the sand, and there's a bunch of shit that I suspect will be coming my way. I didn't exactly think of that. That was a dream. But you know, I wouldn't even go so far as to say it was a nightmare or a premonition or anything. It was a scenario that happened in my head that I went, well, that could happen in the real world, couldn't it? Quite easily. A chick knows you're not going to like the fact that, she has a lot of male friends. Whether she's fiddled around with them or not is another story. And that would be a way of introducing them because they don't like a guy like me because they would see me as a guy as someone kind of removing her from her social circle, which is actually something predominantly women do to men when they really like a guy is they remove them from their social circle. Usually they try to convince them, oh, you don't like him because of that, or blah, 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 or the usual kind of shit. Um, but, they do it in other ways too, ones that are, beyond my skill set to know. However, I am not going to be put in a position like that by a woman, certainly not in the early stages of the game, that's for damn sure. Um, because you can't let them have that kind of power over you. And, if that means, hanging out with other crowds and pissing her off, then that's what's got to be because you can't take that kind of shit from anybody. Um, because there most certainly is a crowd hanging around me, and you know what? I already don't like them, and they already don't like me. So, we're at odds already, and I'm gonna go in this, I'll try to be nice, try real hard, but I'm gonna be as suspicious as fuck. And I don't actually like the idea of going to parties at this point in time because it would be filled with people who know who I am, and I don't know who they are, and there's no reason I should be able to trust them entirely on any subject. Uh, like anything kooky could have happen at a party. That's just the fact of the matter. Um, and I prefer to keep the social circle small, and I prefer to know who I'm dealing with as far as social activity goes and things like that. And unfortunately, with that approach, it's not like it doesn't have their drawbacks either. I mean, whichever crowd approaches me is going to be full of secrets. They're not going to talk, and they're going to turn on this OCD, we're not going to talk attitude. And my approach, because I don't hide my hand, I'm going to say exactly the way I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, make the social conversation like, like, I don't care, but I see what you're doing kind of thing all the time so that they know. that when they, won't answer a question, or they have certain behavioral traits that I notice and they're for manipulative reasons, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can see that, bro, and I don't particularly like that. Or if it's a chick, I go, I can see you doing that, and I don't like that. And it's all sorts of scenarios that could happen that result in that, but uh, there's just no way. I'm not going to meet a new bunch of friends and they're all going to be totally honest with me, very nice, very pleasant, or maybe they are, but they're frauds. I don't know, something like that probably. But and I already got a good impression of what it'll be like. It'll be like my current social situation now, except amplified in the sense that it may be more interactive as far as people have conversing and having conversations and things like that, because it's pretty abysmal right now for me as far as direct conversation with anybody. And this isn't just even women that I'd like to go with. This is also, just having regular conversation with men. Um, it's pretty sparse and not non-existent for the most part. But that's just because I'm too damn handsome. That's what it really boils down to. Yeah, man. So anyway, that was the dream. Don't know what the rattlesnakes and me having to go into a house that I thought was mine, but it wasn't my house. But in the dream, it was. I had the impression it was my house. Um, I don't know what that had to do with anything. I think that was just. I don't know. It was in the dream. That's the only thing that mattered. Um, and Yeah, yeah, that's essentially what happened, and it's kind of like a metaphor, I suppose, for what was going on. And it's not that I wouldn't have thought of this particular scenario in my life, from the outside looking in. Now, it's just this uh, hit me in the face like an Asian carp in the deep south of the States. Like I'm on a boat and it just smacked me right in the face, kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, that's what went down. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.